you're watching the Screaming Fish here, people. Once again, I'm here for you guys with yet another video, and this time, as you can tell by the clearly very obvious title under the screen, we are looking at the next installment into one of my favorite action franchises of all time, Mission Impossible. Well, Mission Impossible Fallout to be precise, but yeah, you know what I mean. It's in the title, Mission Impossible Fallout movie review. Anyway, without further ado, let's go and take a look at my thoughts. Let's go and take a look at my thoughts on Mission Impossible Fallout. There, I finally got my words out, you're welcome. Mission Impossible is one of my favourite action franchises of all time, as I've already said. I've liked all the movies, even 2, although that is definitely the weakest of the bunch, so I was pretty hyped for Mission Impossible Fallout. It was interesting to see that rather than switch to a different director like they have after every film, they stuck with the same guy who directed the last movie, Rogue Nation. So I was curious to see how Fallout would turn out just based off that information. I'm sure most of you remember when Mad Max Fury Road came out in 2015 and loads of people, including myself, thought it was one of the best action movies in years. Well, for me, Mission Impossible Fallout is the Mad Max Fury Road of 2018. What I'm trying to say here is that Fallout is one of the best action movies I have ever seen. I'm not even joking. When I walked out of this movie, my mind was just blown. There were so many things about this film going through my head at the time. Hence why I took a couple days off after seeing the movie to really think about it for a while. And now, I can definitely say that I think this movie is a masterpiece. Instead of going for a similar direction to that of Rogue Nation, or even Ghost Protocol for that matter, this movie actually went back to the roots of the first movie. There are a lot of scenes where you really have to listen to the dialogue, and that may be an issue for some. This is one of those movies where even if you miss a couple lines of dialogue because you were daydreaming or something, you may end up lost for a good majority, if not the entire film. For me, that's not an issue because I love movies like that. I love movies that treat you with respect. Movies that don't treat you like a complete dumbass that needs everything explained to in a super insanely long exposition scene. I like movies that basically go, hey, pay attention, this line of dialogue is important, it means something. This isn't just one of those movies like Transformers where there's a mindless action scene every 10 minutes. It's a movie that asks you to think about the dialogue, to think about the plot, and above all, pay attention. Admittedly, the story isn't the most original action movie plot out there. There is yet another nuclear subplot and someone who wants to obtain things that may or may not end the world, but it's the way this film utilizes those plot threads that keep the story engaging. Despite a familiar premise, this is probably the most unpredictable film in the franchise. There are a lot of twists and turns I didn't see coming, and every time something unexpected happened, I just found myself thinking, holy crap. And for a movie to do that at the end of almost every scene is a true testimony to the screenplay. Tom Cruise is great in this movie, although considering how good he is in the other movies, that's really no surprise to me at all. This movie does do a lot with the character of Ethan Hunt, a lot more than previous movies. In Fallout, we have characters questioning him whether the fact that he cares for every single member of his team is now becoming an issue in his missions or not. So constantly, this character is under pressure to make sure his team get out alive, as well as save the lives of millions of people whose lives will be in jeopardy if the villains aren't stopped. So there is tension between Cruise and certain characters because there are some characters in this film, like Angela Bassett's character, who believe that one life isn't worth millions of other lives, and are therefore willing to sacrifice that one life in order to get the job done. And that's where the tension gets its energy from, because Ethan Hunt thinks that that is wrong on so many levels. I also really enjoyed Simon Pegg's performance in this movie. He was really entertaining, especially in the more comedic scenes, but he also had some pretty intense scenes, which were also very entertaining and kind of intense. No pun intended. Maybe. Ving Rhames was also great here once again as Luther. He's been one of my favourite characters since the first Mission Impossible movie, and he has continued to remain a highlight of this franchise, and he is still so good. Rebecca Ferguson is fantastic in this movie, better than she was in Rogue Nation for sure. But they also did a lot more with the relationship between her character and Tom Cruise, and the conflict that these two characters often go through with each other is one of the best parts of the movie, partly because it results in some of the film's best action sequences, but also because of the chemistry between these two actors, which works so well in the film's favour. Henry Cavill gave the best performance he's given in a good while. He is a badass in this movie, and the scenes where him and Tom Cruise butt heads are fun because these two are constantly competing with each other and even clashing due to their differences in tactics. Also, Henry Cavill has an action sequence that takes place in a bathroom that is everything I want from an action sequence. It's brutal, intense, it's filmed with all these insane wide angles, and the choreography is masterful. The punches really feel like they connect, and it's freaking awesome. Now let's just take a moment to just gaze at that beautiful mustache. Glorious. The action sequences in Fallout, I would argue, are the best in the franchise. There is a helicopter sequence in this movie that was so goosebumps inducing that I was almost shaking in my seat. It was so thrilling. The best part? All the action is real. The stunts, the foot chases, car chases, even a lot of the helicopter sequence was real, and that does such a lot for the authenticity of this movie. Everything is filmed to perfection. This movie has some of the best camera work I have ever seen. A lot of the time, I was left wondering how the hell they even shot this movie. The halo jump sequence is one of the most thrilling skydiving sequences I have ever seen. It genuinely scared the bejesus out of me. The suspense in these sequences often made me feel very similar to the way I felt watching films like Die Hard, The Matrix, and even the Bourne trilogy. The writing and directing from Christopher McQuarrie is outstanding, not just in the action sequences, which, as I've said, are spectacular, but also in the way in which he shifts the characters around to build tension in any way possible. There will be scenes where a character has to defuse something and he has to get help from someone who isn't really that good at what that character actually does, or scenes where characters have to do things that go against their morals and they end up having to pay the consequences for those actions. He puts these characters in scenarios that constantly test them on their ability to do their job, and from a writing perspective, that's excellent because it builds tension to the maximum level. The climax of this movie was so intense that I was clutching my seat for dear life. My heart was pounding out of my chest like a chest burster. The point is, it was intense, but so freaking awesome. I loved Mission Impossible Fallout. It's everything I could ever want in an action movie. Jaw-dropping stunts, amazing action sequences, a story filled with twists and turns that keeps you on the edge of your seat for every second of the runtime. The music in this was also very good. It's very intense and gives a really intimidating vibe, particularly in the action sequences. MI6 is definitely going to be a tough one to beat. If MI7 is legit better than Fallout, I will genuinely be blown away. But as it stands right now, Mission Impossible Fallout is the best movie in the franchise and one of the best action movies ever made. 10 out of 10. So, guys, those are my thoughts on Mission Impossible Fallout. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I mean, do I really need to say it again? I absolutely love this movie. It's one of the best action movies ever made, and it's the most fun I've had watching an MI movie. Anyway, once again, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And I will indeed see you guys in the next one. But before I go, I'd just like to ask you guys, what did you think of Mission Impossible Fallout? Did you think it was good? Did you think it was bad? Did you think it was somewhere in the middle? Please leave your thoughts down in the comments below. And once again, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!